In a village along the River Oba, the people lived in harmony with the waters that provided them food, stories, and life. Among them was Kamau, an ancient and wise crocodile known not only for his age, but for his deep connection to the river's spirits. One fateful night, a warning reached Kamau from the river's depths, whispering of a great flood that would test the village's faith and resilience. Today, we'll journey into a tale of wisdom and trust, a story that reveals the strength found in listening to the world around us and honoring the forces of nature. Let's begin. Once upon a time, in a village by the River Oba, life thrived. The people depended on the river for food, water, and stories that stretched back generations. But among the villagers, none knew the river better than old Kamau, a crocodile known for his wisdom and his bond with the spirits of the water. Kamau was feared and respected, not for his size, but for his age and knowledge. The villagers often said, "A crocodile does not grow old without wisdom," and they trusted his guidance in matters of the river. One quiet night, Kamau sensed a disturbance in the river. The water spirits whispered to him, their voices like raindrops on leaves. "Kamau," they warned, "a great flood is coming, one so mighty it will swallow the land and all who dwell by the river's edge. You must warn the people." Kamau listened carefully, his heart heavy with the weight of his duty. He knew well that the river, as generous as it was, could also be ruthless. The next morning, Kamau made his way to the village. The elders gathered, curious about his visit, for it was rare to see him leave the water. Kamau's voice, deep as the riverbed, called out to them, "The river has spoken, and its words are grave. Prepare yourselves, for a flood is coming, greater than any you have seen." Some listened with fear, but others dismissed his warning, laughing nervously. "Why should we worry?" they asked. "We have faced many rains before." But Kamau only looked at them with solemn eyes, knowing that the spirit's words were never to be taken lightly. Despite Kamau's warning, the people of the village were divided. The young men scoffed, unwilling to heed the advice of an old crocodile when the sky was still clear and blue. But the elders, who had seen the river's moods over many seasons, pondered Kamau's words. They knew that water could turn from a friend to a foe in moments. Elder Juma, the village's oldest and most respected leader, approached Kamau by the river's edge. "Kamau," Juma said, his voice low with respect, "tell us more about this flood. What must we do to be safe?" Kamau dipped his head in gratitude, appreciating Juma's wisdom in seeking guidance. The water spirits spoke of rains that will not cease, waters that will rise without end. To survive, you must build higher shelters, far from the riverbanks, and store food. This flood will test the strength and wisdom of all who dwell here. Some villagers, seeing Juma's trust in Kamau, began to prepare as best they could. But others grew complacent, laughing that a flood could be so great as to reach their sturdy village. Kamau sighed, for he knew that not everyone would heed the call. "A fool laughs at a flood when he stands on dry ground," he murmured, watching as the river continued to flow, as deceptively calm as a crocodile waiting to strike. Days passed, and just as the water spirits had warned, the rains began. At first, they were gentle, a welcome reprieve in the dry season. The children played in puddles, and the villagers were glad for the relief. But soon, the rains grew stronger, with dark clouds that choked out the sun and thunder that echoed through the hills. The river began to swell, inching up its banks like a creature waking from slumber. Kamau watched from his river post, his eyes scanning the horizon as the rain poured ceaselessly. Some villagers, those who had ignored his warning, began to panic. Their fields flooded, and their homes grew damp. The few who had listened to Kamau's advice had moved their shelters to higher ground, but the others struggled to understand the wrath that the river now unleashed. One young man, Ayo, who had laughed the loudest at Kamau's warning, came running to the river's edge. "Kamau!" he shouted, fear flashing in his eyes. "The water is everywhere! How do we stop it?" Kamau looked at Ayo, the gravity of his words pressing down like the rain. "The river does not obey us, young one. We must respect it." Ayo fell silent, realizing that Kamau's wisdom was the only shield they had against the growing flood. As the floodwaters continued to rise, the water spirits grew restless. They moved through the river, unseen yet powerful, gathering their strength. Kamau, who could sense their every movement, felt their agitation like a shiver in his scales. He knew that the spirits were not only testing the villagers, but also testing him, for he had long been their guardian and voice. One night, as the rain thundered down, Kamau called upon the spirits. "Great ones," he murmured into the river, "what must I do to protect those who have heeded your warning?" The water spirits answered, their voices swirling around him. "Kamau, this flood is a cleansing, a reminder to respect the river, but for those who show wisdom, we will offer a path." The spirits guided Kamau to a narrow ridge that stretched above the river's reach. "Lead the people here," they instructed. "Those who believe will be saved." Kamau understood that this was a test of faith, not just for the villagers, but for him as well. As dawn broke, he swam to the edge of the village and bellowed, "Follow me if you seek safety." Only those who trusted his wisdom dared to follow, but their journey was far from over. Kamau led the villagers who had chosen to follow him on a treacherous path along the river's edge, where the waters threatened to overtake them at any moment. Among them were Elder Juma, young Ayo, and a handful of families who had kept faith in the wisdom of the river. The rain had softened the ground, making it slippery and dangerous. Some villagers stumbled, but Kamau's calm guidance kept them moving forward. "A wise traveler follows the path of those who have walked it before," he reminded them, urging them to stay close. Ayo, who had once been the loudest skeptic, now moved silently, his gaze fixed on Kamau. "Kamau," he said, a tone of respect in his voice, "how did you know the river would rise so high?" Kamau gave a quiet smile, replying, "To know the river, one must listen to its whispers." The journey tested their strength and faith, but the villagers found courage in each step, knowing that Kamau's wisdom was leading them to safety. When they finally reached the ridge the water spirits had shown him, Kamau instructed them to wait. The river had become a vast, churning sea below, yet here, on higher ground, they were safe. The villagers huddled together, watching as the floodwaters surged beneath them, their trust in Kamau now unshakable. Days passed, and slowly the rains began to ease. The floodwaters receded, leaving behind a changed landscape. Trees were uprooted, fields lay buried in mud, but the ridge where Kamau and the villagers had sheltered remained untouched. As they made their way back to the village, they marveled at the devastation and at the wisdom that had saved them. Elder Juma gathered the villagers and looked at Kamau with deep reverence. "Kamau, you have saved us, and we will never forget the strength of your wisdom." The young Ayo stepped forward, bowing to Kamau. "I was foolish to doubt you," he admitted. "From this day I will teach my children to listen to the river's voice." The water spirits, witnessing Kamau's legacy, blessed the river with newfound richness. Fish were more abundant, the land more fertile, as a gift to those who had survived and learned respect for the waters. And Kamau, now a legend among the people, returned to the river, knowing his role as guardian was fulfilled. From that day, the villagers lived with a deeper respect for the river and its mysteries, and when the children asked about the great flood, the elders would tell them of Kamau, the wise crocodile who spoke with the spirits and saved his people. "The river can bless and the river can curse," they would say, "but only those who listen with respect shall truly understand its power." And thus, the story of the flood and the wisdom of the crocodile became a legend, passed down through generations, a reminder of the balance between nature and the wisdom of listening. Dear viewer, as our journey through the legends of the crocodile and the great flood draws to a close, may we carry with us the timeless lessons woven into this tale. The story of Kamau, the ancient crocodile, reminds us of the strength in listening to both nature and wisdom that comes with age. In a world where foresight is often overshadowed by impatience, Kamau's message resonates, urging us to respect the knowledge of those who came before and to heed the subtle warnings that life and nature often whisper. Just as Kamau remained deeply connected to the river, may we too learn to respect the rhythms of the world around us, understanding that sometimes the most important voices are the ones we must listen to in stillness. This tale encourages us to be mindful of the forces that shape our lives, to seek guidance from those with experience, and to prepare for challenges even when they seem distant. In our modern lives, where distractions often cloud our perception, let Kamau's story remind us of the value of wisdom, patience, and preparedness. If this tale of resilience and respect for nature's power inspired you, we invite you to join our community by subscribing to our channel. Here, we share not only folklore but also the rich lessons that these stories offer for our daily lives. Stay connected with us on our social media platforms, where you'll find updates, new stories, and a community that celebrates the wisdom of the ages. You'll find links to our ebooks and audiobooks of more tales like this in the description below. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the legends of the crocodile and the great flood. Until our next adventure, may the spirit of Kamau's wisdom guide you, and may you too always find the strength to heed life's quiet warnings and cherish the wisdom that surrounds us all. Stay wise, stay prepared, and keep the stories alive.